Hey there everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm your resident fantasy therapist and welcome back to my channel. Those of you here for the first time, welcome. My name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a writer working on 2 novels right now. And on my channel, I like to talk about what I consider to be the heart of writing, and that's the characters. And the heart of the characters is their psychologies. That's the angle I like to take with whatever I talk about. So today I'm doing a tag. This is the Writers Are Punk tag by Writer Punk, who was kind enough to tag me in it. And I will say that my videos have been kind of scattered this week. I think I uploaded on Wednesday and Thursday instead of Friday. The days are kind of blending together right now. So, but I'm hoping that I'll be more on my usual schedule this week. So there are, I believe, 10 questions. Yeah, so there's 10 questions to this tag. So I'm just going to jump right into it. And if you guys like this tag, make sure you check out the link. I'll put it in the description below so you guys can do it too. So first question. What makes your writing voice unique? Ooh, this is a fun question. I think it's my emphasis on psychology because that's the way I think. Once a counselor, always a counselor. So it's not, I tend to focus not just on what the characters are doing, but why they're doing it. What is their rationalization? And even if their rationalization, like in the case of villains, doesn't make sense to the rest of us, it makes sense in their mind. And I like to really draw emphasis to that. I am also a big fan of kid heroes, which I do not see very often outside of like middle grade or YA. And my kid heroes tend to be much younger. Like in my first work in progress, my youngest is 7. And I think I have 6 main characters, and let's see, Ania's 7, Kiska's 10, Tema and Suna are 14, 15. Nali is like 17, 18, and Zava's 19. So a really wide range. And actually, one of the first pieces of advice people gave me when they read it the first time is they said, well, if you're writing YA, you need to make them older. And I said, it's not YA, it's adult. And that kind of threw them for a loop. But I'm one of those people, I don't believe that your age category necessarily dictates your character's age. I think you can have a lot of fun mixing it up. So that's what I like to do. So that's something that is in my voice a lot as well, is just getting the viewpoint of characters you usually don't see the viewpoint of. I think that's fun. Number 2, have you ever been teased or bullied for being a writer? What kept you writing anyway? Not as much as some people, I think. My family has always been very supportive. Most of my friends have always been very supportive. I think the only teasing I really got was when I was in junior high, because I was known as the girl who would sit outside in the hall during her free time and write. But it wasn't really a ton of teasing. It was just 1 or 2 boys in my history class that I remember, actually. And I distinctly remember this event, that I came into, for my history class, put my stuff on my desk, including my writing notebook, which I always had with me. And then I left to do something, I don't remember what. And I came back, and one of the boys had taken my writing notebook just for a gag, a laugh. And one of my friends told me who had it. And my teacher came in at that point to start the class, and I stormed up to this kid's desk and just yanked it from him, slammed it on his desk, just glared at him, and then walked back to my desk. And my teacher looked at me, and then looked back at them and said, "What did you do?" Because I was the quiet one. So that stopped that, and people just kind of figured it was just my thing, and they left me alone. My first negative review kind of threw me for a loop, but I think I was lucky enough in that the first person that gave me negative feedback knew how to give it. They gave it to me in sandwich format. They told me what was working, what wasn't working, how they thought I could improve it, and then they gave me something else they really liked. So that's why I am really stern in how I give feedback, and that I don't think it's a good idea to just give, here's what's wrong. So that's where that comes from. Number 3, which of your characters is the stick it to the man poster child? Zava. I did not even have to think about this one. To be honest, a lot of my characters have this trait in certain varieties, but Zava is definitely that. He is a very inquisitive character in that he doesn't like to just take people's word for why things are the way they are. He wants to know why. He wants to know why things can't change, that kind of thing. So, in his mind, if there's not a good reason for why we do things the way we do, we need to change it. And he really doesn't care if that's a bad idea or not. Part of his journey is figuring out exactly how hard this is and exactly how dangerous this is, but definitely Zava, because he doesn't take anybody's crap, and that's one reason I love writing him. Number 4, what is the most unconventional way you've subverted a trope? So this one I don't think is unconventional, but I have been talking about it a lot, so I think it's important to bring up. Both of my novels right now, and honestly, every novel I will write will have someone with albinism in it, in a positive role. Reason being, my husband has albinism, and one of his pet peeves with media is the person with albinism or the albino is always the bad guy. I actually did a whole video on this where he was nice enough to answer questions and stuff. So you guys can check that out. I'll link it. But that's my main one, is making these characters not negative all the time. The other trope that I really like to subvert when I can is the trope of the oblivious parent. This drives me nuts, especially in YA, when you have your main character is the hero, whatever, and are running off into danger, and their parents are completely oblivious to it. So my parents in my works are usually very involved. One of my favorite ways that I subverted this trope is I have in one of my works kids that are working to essentially sneak out and investigate a mystery that they think that they need to solve. And they're going over all of these potential ways that they can sneak out, and every single time they're finding, no, we would get caught, we would get caught, we would get caught, because the parents are competent. And so finally, one of them just says, hey, why don't we just tell the parents and ask them to come with us and help us? And it works. That's probably my favorite that I've done so far. All right, number 5. What is your favorite book or character that everybody has forgotten about or nobody knows about? I'm really picky on my books, honestly. I still really like The Last Unicorn. I don't think it is forgotten per se. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but it's definitely well known, and I think it should be well known. It's very well done. I am also a big fan of Marion Blackwood's The Oncoming Storm series. I think her second book comes out, I think it's May 4th or 5th. I did a ARC review for it that I will be putting up shortly, actually. And I just love the main character because it's very rare I see a morally gray character done well, and she does Storm very, very well. You care about her, you also get frustrated with her. Everything's done right with her, and so I definitely highly recommend those books. You can check out the first book already. It's already out, and like I said, the second one will be coming out soon. I will be posting a review for that one before it's released, so you guys can make sure to check out that book if it sounds like something you're interested in. 6. What is a trend in your genre you dislike? Grimdark. I talked about this in my last tag, so I won't go into deep detail on it, but I don't like grimdark because most of the time the characters, their flaws outweigh their good points, so I don't really like the characters. That's my big issue with A Song of Ice and Fire, is I think out of all those hundreds of characters, there's maybe 2 or 3 that I think aren't assholes. So that's a trend I don't like. Because it can be done well. I mean, setting up a world that is darker and more realistic and gritty and unforgiving, that's not the problem. The problem is that most of the time people just make the characters unlikable, and I don't want to follow a character I don't like. Simple as that. Right, next question. Do you want to be traditionally published or self-publishing your jam? Self-publish. Reason being, there are a lot of trends and traditional ideas my books do not follow. Like I mentioned before, I have kid protagonists in an adult fantasy, which doesn't happen very often. I also tend to throw in a lot of psychological stuff that isn't traditionally in these kind of books. Like I said, I've already been told that if I wanted to be traditionally published, I would need to age up a lot of my characters, and I'm not going to do that because there's a reason I made them the age they are. I like the control of self-publish. I have nothing against people that go with traditional publish, but I think unfortunately a lot of times because of all the expectations that agents have to abide by in traditional publishing, I think unfortunately a lot of really good stories get cast aside. In the past year, I have read more self-published books than I have traditional published books, and I haven't enjoyed them immensely because they don't follow the common trends. So that's why I'm going with self-publishing. Number 8, what's something you do as a writer that you have not seen other writers do? I think again probably my emphasis on the psychology, because that's just the way that I think. I can't make up a character and not have a backstory for them. Even my like secondary, third characters that show up for one scene, I know their background, I know what they think, why they do the things they do, and I just can't think otherwise. So when people are talking about they don't know a character's backstory, they don't know why they do the things they do, I can't fathom that because that's not how I think. So I think that. Other thing is, I have nothing against romance, but you will see much more platonic in my stories than romance. I just think it's a much more interesting dynamic to write. It's my favorite to read, and it's hard for me to find because most stories have some form of romance in them. Like I said, nothing against romance. I just prefer friendship, and I want to read more of that. And number 9, do you use a pseudonym or do you use your real name? I use my real name. I got the name Bowser when I got married, and I love it. So I want to stick with that. My full name is Catherine, but people started calling me Kat when I started working in mental health about 2008, I think it was, and it just stuck. So that's what I go with. Right, number 10, what's a trope or writing style or character dynamic or whatnot that you like that a lot of people tend to dislike? I kind of mentioned this earlier. I love kid heroes. Even when I was a kid, I loved reading about the kid heroes, but I also loved reading about supportive adult roles. And I think that probably has to do with the cartoons and stuff I watched because there was a lot of found family in there. And I really liked that dynamic of them working together. And that stuck. Even when I grew up, I really wanted to read more of kid heroes. But it became harder to find ones that were, I guess, written competently. Because most of the time kids fall into they're either annoying or they're too perfect. They don't act like kids. And that's something I tried to keep a grip on, is that balance between being competent enough to lead the story, but still having the kid characteristics that make that viewpoint unique. So that's what I like to do. Also, like I mentioned, I'm a big fan of the supportive parents, the supportive family, which I don't see as often as I would like. So that's something else I like to do. Like I said, especially if you have a kid hero, usually the parents are oblivious or dead. Not all my parents are good. I do have a couple of stinkers in there, but For the most part, I like to have supportive families or supportive family like units in my stories, and that just makes it more fun for me. So that was the Writers Are Punk tag. Thank you, Writer Punk, for tagging me. I will link the original tag in the description below, so if you guys want to check it out, make sure you do. I'd love to see what you guys think of this. As I said, I will be trying to get back on my regular schedule this week. Quarantine is really meshing my days together, so I'm starting to lose track of what day is what. But I will have another trip diagnosis up for you guys this week, and I think I should have another video up for you guys. Yeah, I should have a book review of Marion Blackwood's latest novel up for you guys this week as well. As always, if you guys have comments or questions, make sure to leave them below. I will respond to them as soon as I can. And until next time, I hope you guys have a good one.